Now we have K is equal to IH cross 1 by phi of t, dou phi by dou t is equal to a constant, that is K. LH is equal to a constant. From here we are going to find what is this phi of t, or simply phi. Phi of t means the function phi. So we have to find an equation for this phi of t. So from this equation we can find that phi of t, dou phi by phi of t is equal to k by IH cross into dou t. So here we have a dou phi here and remaining phi of t. So dou phi by phi of t, which is equal to k is a constant. IH cross can be taken to the RHS. So k by IH cross, and here remaining dou t can be taken to RHS. So it will be multiplied by dou t, k by IH cross into dou t. So dou phi by phi of t is equal to k by IH cross into dou t, or simply dou phi by phi is equal to, phi of t means phi itself. So dou phi by phi is equal to k by IH cross into dou t. So this equation involves dou phi and dou t, so that it is a differential equation. So we have to integrate this equation to find phi. Okay, so integral dou phi by phi is equal to integral k by IH cross into dou t. So we have to integrate this equation. What is integral dou phi by phi? It is ln phi. Integral 1 by x dx is equal to ln x. So integral 1 by phi dou phi is equal to ln phi. So ln phi is equal to k by IH cross is a constant. Therefore, k by IH cross into integral dou t. Integral dou t is t itself. Integral dx is equal to x. Therefore, integral dou t is equal to t. So, ln phi is equal to k by IH cross into t. So, we have to find phi. So, we have to take exponential on both sides, e raised to ln phi, which is equal to e raised to k by IH cross into t. Here exponential and logarithm can be cancelled, so that phi is equal to e raised to k by IH cross into t. So this is our function phi of t. So from this equation we are finding the function phi of t, which is equal to e raised to k by IH cross into t. Now what will be our wave function psi of xt? Psi of xt is equal to, actually I have written as psi of xt is equal to psi of x into phi of t. That was the format. Now phi of t is equal to e raised to k by IH cross into t, right? So that we can substitute that here. So psi of xt is equal to psi of x into, instead of phi of t we have e raised to k by IH cross into t. So this is equation number 6. Now I am going to differentiate this equation with respect to time. Again with respect to time. So what will be the LHS, dou psi by dou t, which is equal to, with respect to time, so that position will be a constant. Psi of x is a constant. What is the exponential derivative? It is the exponential itself. So e raised to k by IH cross into t, derivative e raised to k by IH cross into t itself, but it must be multiplied by the constant k by IH cross, because the derivative of t is equal to 1, then the remaining term is k by IH cross. So we have to multiply this by k by IH cross. So dou psi by dou t is equal to k by IH cross is a constant, psi of x into phi of t. This is our wave function, simply our wave function. Psi of x into e raised to k by IH cross into t, this term will be our wave function. So instead of this term we can substitute psi itself. So dou psi by dou t is equal to k by IH cross into psi, or IH cross dou psi by dou t is equal to k psi. IH cross can be taken to the LHS. IH cross dou psi by dou t is equal to k psi. This is equation number 7. So from the psi of xt we are finding k psi is equal to IH cross dou psi by dou t. Already we have the energy operator. What is our energy operator? IH cross dou by dou t. It was our energy operator. Then E psi is equal to, multiplying by psi, E psi equal to what will obtain? IH cross dou psi by dou t. So E psi is equal to IH cross dou psi by dou t. Compare these two equations 7 and 8. Here we have IH cross dou psi by dou t. Here we have IH cross dou psi by dou t. Here we have a psi here and psi. So that we can write K is equal to the energy. K is equal to energy. The constant K. What was K? This function was K, right? So this K is nothing but the energy itself. That is equation number 9. Therefore, we can write this K is equal to E. What was K? LHS of that equation. IH cross 1 by phi of T dot phi by dot T was K, which is nothing but energy. So that this equation number 3 becomes, you just refer the equation number 3. LHS was K, that constant. IH cross 1 by phi of T dot phi by dot T. So instead of that, we can now substitute E. E is equal to, this was the RHS, minus h square by 2m 1 by psi of x dou square psi by dou x square plus v. Equation number 3 can be written as like this, because K is equal to E, the constant. Multiplying by psi. Now I am going to multiply this equation by psi, that is E into psi E psi, which is equal to minus h square by 2m. When we are multiplying this term with psi and psi of x can be cancelled. Now we have minus h square by 2m dou square psi by dou x square plus v into psi v psi. Okay. Now just arrange this equation. Minus term can be taken to the LHS, that is h square by 2m dou square psi by dou x square, plus we have an E psi here, and plus V psi can be taken to the LHS, which means minus V psi is equal to 0. That is h square by 2m dou square psi by dou x square. E minus V psi is equal to 0 because psi is a common factor here. Now I have to remove this term. So I will divide the two terms by h square by 2m. So this term divided by h square by 2m, and the second term divided by h square by 2m. So this can be cancelled. So dou square psi by dou x square plus we have a 1 by h square by 2m, which is equal to 2m by h square. That is 1 by x is equal to x itself. So that we can write 2m by h square, and the remaining term E minus V psi is equal to 0. Dou square psi by dou x square plus 2m by h square E minus V psi is equal to 0. This is Schrodinger's time independent one-dimensional wave equation, because this equation does not involve the time. There is no time here, so that it is known as time independent wave equation, and it is a one-dimensional wave equation because it involves only the term x. Right, so it is a one-dimensional wave equation. In three-dimensional, we can write dou square psi by dou x square plus dou square psi by dou y square plus dou square psi by dou z square plus h square 2m by h square E minus V psi is equal to 0. That is del square psi plus 2m by h square. There is a mistake here. 2m by h square E minus V psi is equal to 0. Because we have already discussed about del square operator. This is del square psi. So del square psi plus 2m by h square E minus V psi is equal to 0.